This is the TradeXchange options seminar. Test of audio for the 21st of May, 2015. We're about 7 minutes away from the seminar. If you're just joining us, just doing some sound checks. Once again, this is just an audio test of the TradeXchange options seminar. We'll be beginning in just over 4 minutes at approximately 4:45. If you're just joining us, be sure to press play and it'll just keep playing for you live. Thanks, folks. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the TradeXchange options webinar seminar for users of the TradeXchange forum and Squawk services. Certainly, we understand that we have other viewers as well, so welcome. We wanted to go into just a little bit of an introduction of who we are, and some of you are new to the service, so we want to give you a nice introduction to who we are. And then we'll go into a discussion of option basics and what type of information you will see within the forum. And during this time, those of you who have access to the TradeXchange forum, we encourage you to ask questions. Anything is on the table with respect to options, and we will absolutely do our best to answer your questions. We are the TradeXchange. My name is George Avedon, along with Milton Marmonides. We are really glad to be here. As you can see, we are built for traders by traders, and there's a reason we we came up with that tagline. Really, we come from we're just part of the team. Our team is comprised of 60 plus years of market experience. We've been in the capital markets for many years, and we feel that this industry is just constantly changing, and having the right information is absolutely critical if you're actively trading this environment. So what do? We supply research in the form of technical and fundamental knowledge to traders and active investors. And it does not matter what type of trader you are, information is absolutely critical. And that's what we do. So why do we initially come up with this concept? We just felt that there was just too much information out there, and very difficult to digest all of that information. And so we wanted to turn information and data into knowledge. And we focus on equities, we focus on options or equity derivatives, and futures. So you'll see also futures information within the forum, and you'll hear that on the Squawk as well. So our objective while we're doing this, while we're providing you this information, we want to make sure there's no, as I'm sure you can see by the forum and the Squawk, really no clutter, no chatter or chit chat, some might call. And we just want to make sure this type of information is very clean and presented to you folks in a very straightforward manner. And that's what we really what we strive to do here. So how do we make sense of the information, and what's our objective? And then we'll go into, we want to make sure the information is simple to understand. We want to make sure that we deliver the information quickly, that it's real time. We alert you folks of volatile markets, of volume spikes, and we're able to do this. We're able to provide this knowledge all day long. So, and really, here's a key point here, and we understand this being from the industry for many years. Each trader is different. Each trader is going to approach each particular scenario differently. Each trader has a subjective viewpoint on the information that's coming through. And certainly there are many ways to approach this type of information and knowledge that we're providing our members and subscribers on a daily basis. So what type of traders use our services, including what we're going to discuss in options, is our day traders, scalpers, swing traders, portfolio traders, active investors, and of course, futures traders. So there's something for everyone within our services, and that's something that we'll go into. So let's dive right in, folks. And the reason we selected options as our I don't want to call it a maiden voyage, but our one of our first webinars to present to you folks is there's so much information about options out there, and more traders and active investors and new traders and existing traders for many years are getting into options, and we're going to keep things on a very even keel for today's seminar, and we'll go right into the type of information you'll be seeing. We'll have some examples for you as well, and then we'll have Milton come in and really talk about what a trader's what a trader does when he sees particular information. And so so the first thing you'll most likely notice throughout the day is what are called block trades, right? So it's a very example here is, let's say, XXX stock. There's 4,000 contracts, or you'll see 4,000 MAR 17 calls at $1.40, right? So what does this mean? That means there are 4,000 contracts that were being bought. It will typically report on the offer purchases of calls or puts, and we'll discuss that in a moment as well, at $1.40. It's March expiration with a strike price of 17. Okay, so why do we think that's important? Why do traders, more importantly, not just why we think it's important, why traders feel that it's important, is if you take a look at the equivalent, we like to look at things as equivalents, right? So one option contract equals 100 shares of stock. So what does that mean? So 4,000 contracts is actually equivalent to as if a 400,000 shares of stock block went off. And that's really critical here. That's why we bring this type of information to you during the day, because we feel that it's important. The other type of information, again, we're keeping things basic just for a little bit here. Other types of information that you'll see here are sweeps. Sometimes you'll see, you'll hear maybe call activity or put activity, and we'll say sweeps or small sweeps. So using the same type of example, it's XXX stock sweeps March 17 calls at $1.40 bought on the offer, right? So what does this mean? This means that various quantities are bought on the offer of the XXX calls that expire in March with a strike price of 17. Okay, this is a little bit of an alternative to the block. It means that maybe a single trader or a particular algorithm is buying out what is available on the offer in that particular price, in that particular expiration, in that particular strike price. So that's really important to know. And again, we report that for you. And again, when you add up the sweeps, meaning it could be a 24 contracts, 17 contracts, and many of those together will add up to rather significant numbers, and that's why we provide that information to you. Okay, so unusual option activity. So sometimes you'll see during the day or over a course of several days, activity in options, and we'll give you an example of, for example, SRPT, and we'll bring that up in a little bit later. But at times, a particular stock maybe has not been volatile in recent weeks, but you'll see that all of a sudden there's unusual option activity. All of a sudden there's, without having any volatility in the particular security, without having any type of news or any particular technical analysis and information coming through, you'll have an unusual option activity. What does that mean? So all of a sudden, out of the blue, there's unusual option activity. We'll use the same example: 4,000 contracts, March 17 calls at $1.40, bought on the offer in a security that has not seen volatility in weeks. So something's going on. right? Someone out there has taken upon themselves, whether it's an institution, whether it's a fund, whether it's an individual, a trader, a large trader. There's something going on in the stock, and we want you folks to know about it. The impact on the particular underlying equity may not be immediate. And this is something critical here, but something to keep your eye on. So again, it may not be immediately actionable. Again, each trader is different, but we may see some initial price action, volume surge, but there may be more to come in the medium or longer medium term or longer term time horizon, and that's something to really keep an eye on. Additionally, so those are one of the things in options. Again, we're keeping the conversation here on options rather basic, so we'll continue with the basics here. So what is a call? Call is the right to buy a particular equity, and when you see calls being bought on the offer, it's a directional play, right? You're looking at without having any other conditions, and if there are conditions, we'll talk about those in a little bit. Without having any other condition, a pure play, is directional, right? And that's what traders look at. You're either buying, we're either reporting on calls, the right to buy a particular stock, or puts, the right to sell a stock. Excuse me. Again, directional play on the downside. So obviously, calls are bullish, puts are bearish. And again, folks, should you have any questions, please, if you have access to the TradeXchange forum, go ahead and submit them. We'll do what our best to answer those questions. There may be a little bit of a delay in answering those questions, but we'll certainly get to them one by one. Okay, so why traders watch option activity? It's not just the Nigerians, right? It's everyone. A lot of folks are watching options activity, market makers, institutional traders. The sheer popularity of options and their impact is rather large. And frankly, and this is something that Milt and I talk about rather frequently, is that they're quite misunderstood. People do try to complicate things very quickly, whether you're talking about spreads or straddles or butterfly spreads or what have you. We won't go into that today, but they're rather misunderstood, and we want to just keep things rather basic today, just to give you a nice base of what type of information we're providing. Excuse me. So what you will see in the forum and what you'll hear in the squawk, right? You'll hear call buying on the offer. You'll hear put buying on the offer. So obviously, if you hear call buying on the offer, you'll check out the security, the equity, and you'll make a determination whether or not you want to participate in that particular directional play. Same thing on the put buying on the offer. We will occasionally bring up call selling on the bid. Why do we do that? Particularly on the offer and the bid. So obviously, if you're buying on the offer, you're being a bit of an aggressive buyer. If you're selling, folks, this is something that's rather unique. We won't bring it up a lot, but we will sometimes bring up call selling, and that's obviously a bearish indication. And we feel that that's important. But again, you won't see a huge amount of that call selling. And also, we'll also bring up put selling. That means obviously it's a bullish indicator, and we'll alert you to that. Oh, and they have to be blocks, or they have to be sweeps that's impacting or potentially will impact the underlying security. Okay. One of the other things that you'll see is occasionally, well, a little bit more than occasionally, you'll see activity in particular in the put or call with a strike and price. So what does this mean? So we're detecting some activity in a particular option, expiration and price. It's typically sweeps in combination with some blocks, right? So but what we'll do is we'll provide you particular activity, and also we'll do what we can to provide the aggregate amount of contracts that's going on in this particular trade. We'll also include options with volume spikes alongside option activity. So typically, so what you may see at times is a simultaneous volume price action in the underlying security, and then you'll see that coinciding with option activity. So that's rather interesting dynamic there. You'll also see a little bit of vice versa here. So at times you'll see option activity, and then you'll see a volume spike in price action, or you'll see a volume spike in price action first, then you'll see option activity. Is this the confirming move? Maybe. Also, you'll also see perhaps some occasionally during the day, you'll see a particular news item come out on a particular security, and then you'll have a follow-up on option activity. If there's some underlying option activity that could enhance the move, if you will, that volume spike or price action move. Okay. And again, vice versa, you know, we'll also bring up option activity before the actual price and volume move in the underlying security. Okay, so why do we bring it up? Why are options important? Are options a window into what's in store? Perhaps, maybe, and we'll give you some examples of what's been happening. Some interesting information with respect to options. Nice examples. Remember, when someone goes out there and purchases a huge amount of calls or sweeps out particular levels in options, it's a bet, right? It's a significant bet. So if they're taking 4,000 contracts at $1, I mean, that is a sizable bet. And that's what we're looking at. That's why it's important. Someone out there feels that it's important to do this. We want to know about that. Also, at times, especially around earnings season, we see activity in weeklies come in a little bit. Weeklies activity increase a bit in terms of activity. Again, these are shorter term transactions or shorter term bets, if you will. Could be gamble plays. Sometimes you'll see that type of terminology. But we look at weeklies in a really important way, because if something's expiring in a week and maybe they're looking for a particular indication from earnings, that's a sizable bet, and we want to bring that up. Or are they anticipating something else from that particular, from that trade? And again, we'll bring up, for example, lumber liquidators was an example. We'll bring that up as well. So we'll continue here. And again, especially in earnings season on the weeklies, we do tend to see a bit of a spike up in activity in the weeklies around earnings season. It feels like it's earnings season all year long, but that's another topic. So what we monitor to provide you information, and we're not being facetious here. We literally look at everything, folks. There's nothing that's off the table, because our objective is to provide you the absolute very best of information with just about everything, but really in our conversation today, really on options. So we base the parsing, if you will, on a really few basic principles. And number one, is the information relevant? Is it real time? Okay. Whether it's for the short term, whether it's for the medium term, long term, we'll show you a few examples of how both in the short term examples and also, for example, in SRPT, we provide you an example that a lot of call activity within the last month or so really is obviously longer term. And that's something, is it relevant for you? And that's our main question. Okay. Next question is next, can a trader participate in the underlying security with respect to volume, liquidity, price? We want to make sure that um, any trader, no matter the experience, that they're looking at this particular information can really act on it in the right way. Also, what we look at is the stock in play during the day or in the last few days? And that's something we keep an eye on. At times, there are number of securities are just constantly in play, and certainly reporting on options on that is important. And also keeping in mind, especially now with earnings and a lot of interesting news, and everyone's talking about the trading ranges of the markets and technicals. What's the history of the security? What are the news? Is there earnings coming up? Is this would this be a gamble play? Is it a weekly? Is it that's really something that's really important to note when we're looking for all this information. So a few caveats before we get into specific examples, and that is, alerts on volumes. It's volume indication. It's an indication that provides volume spikes, whether it's a move on a higher or lower on volume. It can be, obviously a downturn or a spike up. And really, as we said before, and the most critical piece of this is different traders approach this differently. Various traders can approach particular option plays in a very different way. Some actually participate in the actual option. Some just stay clear of that and really concentrate on the underlying security. So there are many ways of approaching this type of information, and that's really important to note. So some very recent examples that we wanted to bring up. One is, we'll start off with the kind of in the middle of the list there that you're seeing, and that is on SRPT. And I want to, if you taking a look at, if you take a look at a chart, if you take a look at a daily chart, we'll take a look at a chart in just a little bit, but you see this last month or so, correct? There's been a huge amount of call buying in SRPT, and all of a sudden you have this, within the last couple of days, a rather significant gap up in price, and that's something that is really critical. So it may not be immediate, folks. So if you see, one of the things that we've learned is, if you see consistent one-way activity, for example, significant call buying, there's something up, there's something going on outside of, you have to take a look and see if there's any news, see if there's any also insider transactions that are going on, any earnings that are coming in. It's really important to take a look at, and that's in SRPT. Also, in VIPS, one of the examples that we had taking a look at today, certainly rather volatile. But on the 19th, if you've, we also brought these up in our after market roundups as well, and VIPS. So we saw November 23 puts being bought at $2.11 through $2.20 on the offer. Okay, so obviously put buying, it's a bearish tone. Also, July 23 puts over 3,100 contracts at 85 cents, both on the 19th. So just a couple of days ago. And we really did see a significant volatility coming into today on the downside. So that's something to keep an eye on. Again, some of this activity can be rather fast, and depending on the trader, may want to take interesting stance on it. But again, something to keep an eye on over the longer term as well. It's not just on the shorter term. It's also, perhaps on the swing trade as well. Also, we want to take a look at LL in the most recent examples, and that was on the 18th. If you're taking a look at the 18th, there were weekly put buying. And again, we know that lumber liquidators has certainly been in the news. It seems as though it's just forever, but obviously someone out there buying weekly puts, it's an interesting bet out there. And obviously we saw this morning rather significant news for the company with the leaving of departing of the CEO. And that's something important to note. One of the questions I had, one of the conversations we want to bring up with Milton, when traders see this type of information, Milton, give us an idea what traders typically look at, what typically goes through the trader's mind when they see large, for example, in VIPS, large put buying consistently, or as you and I talked about offline, and SRPT, continued call buying. Tell us what typically goes through a trader's mind when you see this type of information.
Well, typically, we have, when you're seeing the option activity, we typically see, people taking bets. And these people are, you have I have like a diagram of the top, smartest people in the business. You have, the people who usually have that better feel, because in a way you are gambling when you're doing options in a way. It's not quote unquote gambling, but, you're expecting something to happen within the next week, month, even a leap, which comes, every year. So typically, when we saw the LL May weekly put buying, you're expecting something to happen right away. What happened? This morning we came out, CEO was fired. The stock was down 16.5%, closed down 16.5%. So typically, when we look at options, and when they're popping up to us through our our softwares and algos, we can sit there and decipher the exact move of what we believe is substantial and noteworthy to be posted into the forum. LL, perfect example. VIPS recently as well, a perfect example. You're seeing weakness in the stock, followed by large put buying and the continuous daily motion. You're going to expect to see typically the put side, you're going to expect to see the drop, which we've seen today as well. When you look at the SRPT, I've been posting that thing on that forum every day for like a month. Every other day, someone who has been buying SRPT calls. If it's deep in the money, if it's if there were May, June, July, if there were leaps, people were buying them up left and right. Perfect example on this SRPT. We mentioned the continued talk. What happened today? What happened yesterday? My apologies. The stock was up almost 50%. So clearly, when we're looking at options, we're getting a feel of what people are expecting to happen in the name. If it's on the put side to the downside or the call side to the upside, we try to decipher it. We try to make it something where it's actionable, and that's why we're putting it into the forum. And that's what we try to provide. Anything that we believe is an actionable option play that either can see some immediate movements, which we typically see when we ever post this in the forum. We see an immediate move, or we can see if it's a continued, like the SRPT, a continued call activity or continued put activity, expect to see something happen within a month, 2 months down the road. So that's why we try to find out and weed out through all the option information we get through the day, try to find the best ones, post them in the forum, and typically we can see an initial move with volume, or we see a continued move down the road. SRPT is the ideal example of when we continuously put SRPT continued call buying in the name. And that's been going on for the past month or two. And finally, their expectations came true.
Thank you, Milton. So we'd like to provide some other examples. And folks, feel free to ask questions as we're going through these examples. If you're in the forum, feel free to, we've opened up the forum for question and answer. So please feel free to ask any question option related that you would like. Some other examples we'd like to show you. In a particular day, we saw WMB May 50 put activity over 10,000 contracts. So put that into perspective, folks, with respect to the example that we used. Remember, 10,000 equivalent in stock, in equity equivalents. That's something that's important. Also in VALE, again, this is just some past examples. We tend to put examples up on our blog on a daily or semi-daily basis. We saw Vail May 8.5 call activity at 10:22 on this particular day, and you saw a steady, a precipitous increase in the particular stock price. Another example was CRM. We know that CRM was in play, continues to be in play. In this particular example, just over 1,000 contracts at $1.70. But we really did see a significant tick up in price action and volume surge as well. So that's really the objective there, right, is to provide you information with what can potentially be actionable within the security. Also, so those are examples. So folks, if you have any questions, please feel free to post those in the forum. We encourage questions. We feel that it's important for us as a service, and by all means. So this will be a recording, and we'll post this into this particular page under webinars. Also, we encourage you, if you are not yet a member or a free trial member, we encourage you to email us or contact us. Right up top on the webpage, we have the free trial. Please feel free to reach out to us. You can email us directly at the TradeXchange at TradeXchange.com. We are the TradeXchange. There's you have direct access to the analyst desks, and any question that you have, we are more than welcome to provide you.
So I got one quick question by James in the forum. He asked, how do you guys find the option plays? Typically, we have many software programs running at all times throughout the day. We also have created some certain algos, which we are able to decipher sweeps, blocks, any unusual type plays. And then through our experience, myself, been in this business for about 15 years. I've been working with options for about maybe 10 of those years, myself and George as well. So we were able to decipher these, quickly, fast, and make sure to put them out as fast as possible to all our members in the forums. So basically, it's through experience, it's through knowledge, it's through, algorithmic software that has been created. So it's a combination of everything to provide the fastest, best information in regards to option and unusual options activities to all our members in the forum.
And James, thank you very much for the question, folks. By all means, please feel free to ask questions. So, as we're concluding here, we thank you for joining us on our option presentation. Please look for more information as we provide you this information on various topics. Other topics will include insider transactions and filings, various news, social media type informations, and other information. And really, all of this is geared towards making you aware of what's out there, what kind of information we provide, and how you can improve your trading on a daily basis. So, folks, thanks for joining us. We are the Trade Exchange, built for traders by traders. Now you know why we came up with that. So feel free to reach out to us at any time. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of this webinar. Wishing you a great day. And, of course, see you on the Squawk in the forum tomorrow morning. Have a great day, folks.